Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself, you stupid bitch.
Shut up, I'm a man and I know what's good for me.
Bountiful penis. Amen.
Boy, my ass is sore.
You can get pink eye from farting in a pillow?
Yeah, but you gotta be bare-assed.
I'm gonna invent a toothbrush for your butthole.
It does the trick.
Paddington Bear.
He's a homewrecker?
Yeah, he wrecks homes.
You are a murderer of love.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. With me today is Emily.
Hello, everyone.
And continuing our tour of fabulous guests that we've had in the past, we have Kyle.
Hello, everyone.
And Nick.
Hey, everybody.
From Kyle and Nick on Film and St. Paul Filmcast. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So, this week, we're talking Michael Clayton, and that is available, if you're in America, on Hulu. Also, quick shout out, we are the #1 podcast for film reviews in Swaziland.
Wow.
Hell yeah, we
for
are.
For the month of October. So, all right. Thank you to our listeners over there. We appreciate you. Don't know how we got over there, but that's awesome.
So fucking weird.
That is.
I love it.
I've never been prouder.
Right? Ben texts me and I'm like, are you shitting me?
If I could share, I have a huge following in Sweden, and I don't know why. Maybe, and like I said before, but it's probably because of my accent. But yeah, I don't know anybody from Sweden. I am kind of Swedish, but yeah.
But they don't know that.
Right.
Well, before we jump into this movie, what does everyone have in their glass today? And we're going to start with Emily. What do you got?
Well, this is such an old-fashioned-y kind of movie. You got all sorts of drama. You got all sorts of New York-ish stuff. You got lawyers and cops. So you just got to go with an old-fashioned, very classic.
Absolutely. I went a similar route, Emily. This movie would not stop reminding me that it took place in New York. So I went with a Manhattan.
Really?
Kyle, how about you?
Okay, well, I figured, first of all, I tried to figure out what George Clooney's wedding cocktail was, and I could not master it. So I decided to go and honor my 12th favorite Batman with a bat cave.
Clever.
Just made with spiced rum, vodka, and root beer. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, man, that sounds
Kyle's always
like
clever.
Nick, how about you?
Well, I know George Clooney's from Kentucky. He's from Lexington, Kentucky. So I got a Kentucky Old Forester from Louisville, Kentucky.
Nice. So you just sipping that?
Oh, yeah.
On the rocks or?
I'm pretty boring. It's just in a glass.
We really appreciate having you guys back on. Kyle, why don't you give us a little update on what's been going on with Kyle and Nick on Film?
So we just finished our month of horror. We love doing horror. Basically, myself and Nick, it's like that one thing that we share above all else in the film world. So we did that. And we also celebrated our spinoff to the show, which is Scary Movie Saturdays, which airs every Saturday. So that means we have episodes going at least twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. They drop at 7 in the morning. And then we also have Scary Movie Saturdays every Saturday, at least every Saturday as often as we can. At 7 a.m. as well. We figured that way our regular visitors who are tired of horror can stick to Mondays and Thursdays, but those of them that want the injection of scares can join us for some really wacky and weird horror cinema on Saturdays.
That's awesome. And are you still writing your reviews at Almighty Goatman?
Yeah, goatfilmreviews.com. And we are just about to pass 1,100 film reviews.
Wow.
Which is pretty huge. And I just finished my 31 Days of Horror, Part 8. So it's my 8th year of doing that. I was pretty, not scraping the bottom of the barrel, but really finding some weird oddities.
So you find different, 31 different horror films for the last 8 years?
Last 8 years. I try to break it up between half of them are sequels to ones I've talked about before. And then half of them are kind of exploring a director that we haven't discussed as much. Or sometimes it's just whatever I got around to watching. I was on vacation for an entire week in October, and I wasn't able to watch any horror movies, so I was blitzing through some really deep dives the week before I left.
Yeah, that's really cool. And Nick, how about you? What's been going on with St. Paul Filmcast?
Well, we're coming up almost to the end of the season, and we're definitely booked up. So, and I have to say, for the end of the year, I'll announce right now, the end of the year podcast will be for the top 10 films will be Kyle and Brian Eggert from Deep Focus Reviews.
Oh, very cool.
This is the first time hearing that about actually happening, so I'm really excited.
I will not be participating. I will be there, but it's going to be them two giving their top 10 reviews for the last episode of the St. Paul Filmcast.
Well, that's awesome. And how about your comic book? How's that been coming along?
My comic book company, Parapet Comics, will be launching #1 coming up next week. The story is Mercenary Kingdom, City of Fire.
Wow.
Which is offshoot of Wesley Johnson, a good friend of mine. He written a film and directed a film called Mercenary Kingdom. You can find it on YouTube. And we did this offshoot story into comic book of that short film.
Dude, you guys are so cool. Like, way cooler than either of me or Ben.
Right. Well, 60 hours a week of teaching doesn't give us a lot of time to do other passion projects, Emily.
Well, yeah, but still, like,
I respect the grind, though. The grind is hard. Okay, I do a little bit of that. I'll call it side hustling to make ends meet, and so I totally get. Like, the grind can be difficult, but you know what? You find a little passion that you get here and it works.
Yeah.
And me being married to a high school teacher, I totally understand. I totally understand.
With there being so few hours in the day for Emily and I, it's really important that we only try to like watch really good shit. So Kyle, why don't you sell us on something that you watched recently that you think is worth our time?
Okay. So let me tell you, for Halloween, I can never get the chance to watch Halloween because my wife does not care for it. So I always have to find like another horror film that I'm really going to dig for Halloween. And the one I consistently go back to, I've been a fan of it since I was 8 years old, is Steve Miner's House from 1986. Nick and I actually just recently discussed it. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but I found it on the Sci-Fi Channel when I was like 8 years old, and I am in love with this movie.
Adorable.
So it stars William Catt. It's not a sci-fi original, but it stars William Catt. It's from the 80s. And he plays this writer who is suffering from PTSD from Vietnam. His marriage has fallen apart. His son went missing in his aunt's house, and he hasn't been able to find him. It's been years. And so you might think the film is really dreary with all of that awfulness going on, but this is probably one of the most fun horror movies you can ever get a chance to watch. There's great creature effects. George Wendt from Cheers plays his next door neighbor.
What?
The film is a little cheesy. I mean, but if you're open to the idea of a man being hunted by a dead fish on his wall and a bunch of gardening implements, like it's a bonkers good movie that I cannot stress enough. This is like, it should be talked about in the world of horror more. And I always tell people, if you gave me $200 million and you said make a sequel to any franchise, the one franchise I would return to is House, because it had some terrible sequels and I think I could do it justice.
Okay.
It has one of the all-time best movie posters of all time. That is like top 5 best movie posters.
We will have to post that to Twitter when we get a chance so everyone can see it. Nick, same thing, and I'm gonna limit you a little bit because your TCM watch parties that you do on Twitter, I follow. So give me a TCM movie that we should be watching, or one that you watched during that time.
I just watched it a couple days ago because it was on TCM. It's my all-time favorite, Maltese Falcon. I think it's one of the best movies ever. And it's a film noir. It's Humphrey Bogart. It's that smoky, dreamy quality. I have the book, and the book even is a little bit different from the movie, and I'd still love the movie. Definitely, it's a masterpiece in my regards.
What's that about?
Oh, the Maltese Falcon? Well, everybody's trying to get the little ornament, the little black bird, and they're killing each other to get it. But there's a little bit of mystery entanglement of all involved. So
they want a bird?
Well, it's a ornament.
Ornament?
Yeah. Black bird.
Like, what?
Now, don't you want to watch it so you can find out what the bird is?
Yeah.
They start killing each other? Like, what? Are they addicted to it? Is it like a drug or something? Like, what the fuck?
Well, it is. The whole underlying theme is obsessive about just accumulating this fancy jewel thing and the stake of human lives on it. But it has a mystery component. You know, Humphrey Bogart playing Sam Spade and trying to solve the mystery, Nick. Who killed his partner all the while. Yeah.
It's noir Pink Panther.
Yeah.
I'm a little more sold on House right now, but I'll give it a chance, I promise.
I'm super excited to talk Michael Clayton this week, guys. So Michael Clayton was nominated for 7 Oscars in 2007, including Best Picture. It was directed and written by Tony Gilroy, who was nominated for Oscars for both his directing and writing in this movie. This was his directorial debut. Prior to this, mainly he was known for being a writer. Most notably, he wrote all 3 of the Bourne trilogy movies. And since this, has gone on to write Rogue One, which I know, Emily, being a big Star Wars fan. What did you think of Rogue One, Emily?
No, shut the fuck up. I don't want to talk about it. You know this.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know, Rogue One was not my favorite. It took me a long time to get through it, like multiple years, actually.
Oh.
I know. It's shocking because I cried when I met Chewbacca, so.
Wow.
This movie stars George Clooney as the title character of Michael Clayton. He was nominated for Best Actor for his performance in this movie. He will also be, this is good. There's going to be a little theme for me talking about these cast members today. So he will also be nominated in 2032 for his role in Ocean's 21, which is going to be a combination of Ocean's 8 and Ocean's 13 in this huge heist movie. So be on the lookout for that one.
Oh my God.
I got to have a theme every week, Emily. You know that by now.
I know you do. I know. You're weird.
We can't do How Does Emily Know This Person every goddamn week. Tilda Swinton was nominated for her performance of Karen Crowder in this movie and will be nominated for a role in 2026 when Hollywood pulls its head out of its ass and casts her as Bowie in a decent biopic about his life.
Absolutely.
That's smart. Yeah.
I mean, if Cate Blanchett can play Bob Dylan.
Yeah, and convincing. Yeah.
Tom Wilkinson was nominated for his performance in this movie as Arthur Edens, and he'll be nominated in 2027 when he finally reprises his character in The Fuller Monty.
Bring your singles to the theater, folks.
Yeah.
Dude, that was all for me, wasn't it?
Yep. And lastly, Sidney Pollock received an Oscar nomination as a producer on this movie when it was nominated for Best Picture. He will not receive any future Oscar nominations, though, because he passed away about a year after this movie came out.
Oh, well, that's a bummer to end on. Good job, Ben.
You're going to have to pick a different cast member to go ahead.
I mean, he was nominated for 7 throughout his entire life, including 3 for Best Director for They Shoot Horses, Don't They?, Tootsie, and Out of Africa, for which he won. And a little fun fact is he actually wanted to direct this movie after reading the script, but the writer and future director Tony Gilroy said he was saving it for himself to be his first piece. So he basically said no to Sidney Pollock, but Sidney Pollock jumped on board and said, yeah, I'll produce this, though, because this is definitely going to be a good movie.
Do you think with Sidney being an experienced director, you think sometimes Tony all right, what would you want to do with this scene? I'm sure that happened.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think he got that from a lot of angles, too. If you watch the end credits and you see the producers on the film, it has Anthony Minghella.
Yep.
It has Steven Soderbergh. George Clooney, who was not avidly directing at that point, but he was directing. So, this movie is just stacked with directors turned actors and producers.
Yeah, and this was post Good Night and Good Luck, which was a Clooney direction. So this is still after the fact. So Clooney's got the experience, too. But actually, the first-time director piece with Tony Gilroy is the reason that Denzel Washington did not take the Michael Clayton character.
Oh.
And we'll talk about whether that maybe ended up hurting this movie or if we were lucky to get George Clooney. We'll talk about that. But before we do that, Emily, you had not seen this movie before this week.
Oh my God. No, I had not, but I had 3 clues.
Yep.
Ben last week gave me 3 clues. You told me George Clooney was in it, Tilda Swinton was in it, and you told me the motto or the theme. I can't remember.
The tagline was "The truth can be adjusted."
Yeah.
So, Emily, what do you think? What did you think Michael Clayton was about?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
It's super bad. So our main character is played by Tilda Swinton. I didn't give her a name because I don't know. So we'll just call her Tilda for now, right? Her life is being altered by Michael Clayton, played by George Clooney, because he's an all-powerful clay-wielding god. And Michael Clayton secretly adjusts Tilda's life through his clay sculptures, causing pure chaos until she realizes in her own pottery class that she can control the god's world with her own sculptures. Dun dun dun.
Interesting.
Because the truth can be adjusted like clay.
That's
Golf clap.
Yeah,
Golf
that's
clap.
Thank you.
quite the ride
Like, what
there.
the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Like, Michael Clayton? It's so descriptive. So descriptive.
But I mean, when you hear the last name Clayton, you think someone who works with clay?
I mean, I don't know.
Tons of clay.
Yeah,
That used to be like
Ton of
the
clay.
rule. Like, people's last names were their careers. So
Right.
be
yeah.
nice.
Okay. Let's read the back of the DVD cover to see how close Emily was.
It wasn't.
Nope. Attorney Michael Clayton is a fixer, the go-to guy when his powerful New York law firm wants a mess swept under the rug. But now he's handed a crisis even he may not be able to fix. The firm's top litigator in a $3 billion case has gone from advocate to whistleblower. And the more Michael tries to undo the damage, the more he's up against forces that put corporate survival over human life, including Michael's.
When was the last time you took one of these?
No, I'm not losing this. Everything is now finally significant. The world is a beautiful and radiant place. I'm not trading that for this.
If it's real, the pill won't kill it.
I have blood on my hands.
You are the senior litigating partner of one of the largest, most respected law firms in the world. You are a legend.
I'm an accomplice!
You are a manic depressive.
I am Shiva, the god of death.
I think that synopsis does a pretty good job of setting the stakes for the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I think it gives away a little bit too much in terms of where Wilkinson's character is going to go, but
yeah,
it's worthwhile.
I don't think I would watch the movie if I saw the synopsis.
Why is that?
Why?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What the hell is a fixer? Like, I don't know. As soon as I saw the word litigator and whistleblower, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. Corporate survival. I'm just good.
I'm going to side with Emily on this, though, because I think this is the kind of synopsis on the back of a DVD that I should put on my bedside so that if I need help getting to sleep at night, I can just once over it. But that's part of, I'm a little bit biased because I worked in a gas station that had movie rentals, and this thing came out when I was working there. And I remember every night when I would pick a movie before I'd go home, I'd see Michael Clayton and grab something else.
So, because I was curious, I decided to watch the trailer after I'd seen the movie. And the trailer did a good job of like making me interested and like piquing my interest. But that synopsis was just dry as hell for me. Like, yes, it definitely encapsulates the movie, but it would not have drawn me to the movie for sure.
No, I have to say, once we continue on, there's going to be a lot of flaws with this movie that after rewatching it over 10 years ago, then I'm going to have to adjust because I think I probably put this on my top 10.
Okay.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people did because this movie was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture. So this was a critically acclaimed movie and loved by members of the Academy. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor for George Clooney, Best Supporting Actress for Swinton, Best Supporting Actor for Wilkinson, Best Director, Best Writer for Gilroy, and Best Score by James Newton Howard. And that screenplay award was original that Gilroy was nominated for. The only one who won was Tilda Swinton. Which of these nominations do you guys feel is earned and which ones aren't as earned? Let's kind of jump in there through the Oscar lens to start.
Tom Wilkinson, for sure. He definitely earned his nomination. He was fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's the loud, right? Everybody is kind of quiet and he's the loud, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Tom Wilkinson is the one.
Definitely doing like the Howard Beale from Network, right, Kyle?
Yep. When I saw the movie, I was like, oh my God, this is Network without the satire.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I thought Wilkinson was great. I loved his character. I don't know. He does a great job, but I think the script carries a lot of the weight for a lot of the performance in this movie too, because I think the dialogue in this movie is very well written and character suited. And I think it does a lot of the heavy lifting, especially when it comes to Clooney.
Yeah. And I don't think it's for original script. It's kind of really weird because you would think when you watch this movie, has to be a book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where's the book? And this is kind of the unique thing. This is actually complete entire original screenplay. And I think it's overall dialogue great, but I think characters are not developed enough.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think there's a story in there, but I found myself more interested in the parts of Michael Clayton's life that we don't spend time on. His failed business, his relationships, his lack thereof. He had a girlfriend character that was cut out of the movie that I would have been more interested in following.
Really?
Yeah, the internal mystery itself, I was very pained by the numbers as I watched them. Like, I know how this is going to play out. That's going to happen. This is going to happen. That guy's going to go bad. This guy's going to go good. And I was more interested in finding out, like, what happened with the restaurant or the bar? Like, what happened with that? I want to know more about that. I want to see, Michael Clayton's Cheers.
And we all have a hesitancy. I think I do have a hesitancy to see a movie where it has somebody's full name as the title. You're like,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe something, every time that something has somebody's name as a title, because that's who we're going to be focusing on. I think if it had a different name to it, it'd be a little more enticing.
I agree with that. But Kyle, I got to push back on you because I completely disagree with what you said. The stuff that I found absolutely boring and uninteresting was all the personal stuff about Michael Clayton. Like, I could have done without that. Oh, especially his kid. Like, his kid plays no bearing on the entire movie.
Because they give him nothing to do. But like, that's where I wanted to find out, was like, for some reason they felt the need to flesh out this Realms and whatever it was called, this Magic the Gathering ripoff, which was like, why are we spending so much time on this and not on like his relationship to his son? There is something lost in his connection to his son. He feels comfortable just telling his son that his brother is a loser. And like, what is this like fracturing with him and his relationships that causes him to only be good at fixing problems? Like, I wanted to see him as a character, and instead I kind of felt like he was like a Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction, but Wolfhead did more in less time.
I think I got the idea. What we're trying to do with this writing is the difference between reality and not accepting reality, like a delusion, rather than accepting the reality, including Michael Clayton himself not admitting that he has a gambling problem. Right? You have a gambling problem when you're not winning. Every time when you're winning, it's not a problem. But if you have a problem, you're losing. So I think they want to introduce this, like, every these characters have a certain delusion that they're not accepting the reality of what is going on, including Michael Clayton himself, including his kid who wants to do Magic the Gathering. And I think they try to carry it over to that as a catalyst for Tom Wilkinson to confess, but it doesn't flushed out very well.
Well, as a Magic the Gathering kid, that frustrated me too. I just got a side question there, because like they fleshed out so much of that stuff, and I was like, why didn't you just license a popular card game, something that would make this feel real? But that just felt so out of place to me, and it sounded like a boring card game.
Yeah.
And I've spent a lot of money on bad card games.
Right, same. I was sitting there like waiting for this to become like a magical, mystical quest, and was very disappointed.
You wanted them to turn into clay, so
yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I need those minifigures.
And I think what they're trying the story it is not just so much a just truth, but more like this is the terms of reality and perception is wrong for each character. And for Michael Clayton to be a flawed character and we have to trust exposition, I don't think it flushes out very much as well, because we have to trust what people are saying rather than how they are performing. I don't see how talented Michael Clayton is in the movie. I don't see how talented Arthur is, but everybody's telling me they are, but I never see it in action. That's another thing. It's hard to trust the exposition in this movie when I don't see it get played out.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talking, not showing.
Yes.
2007 does that a lot, I've noticed.
Well, and one of the ways this movie starts is with a lot of kind of narrative place setting. How did you guys feel about starting this movie at basically the beginning of the end for the Michael Clayton story?
I liked the framing device of setting it at this sequence and then jumping 4 days back. I didn't like the opening narration from Wilkinson because it doesn't mean much when you hear it at that point. And then when it's reiterated like 10, 15 minutes later, it doesn't mean much anyway. Again, if they had placed that narration maybe at the end of the film, gave it a bit more significance to like, now that you've seen the story, what does this narration mean? But I listened to the narration again. I don't really know if it means anything at that point either. I like the actual like setup of him going through this, this fixer situation. And then he pulls over on the side of the road and he looks at these horses. And it was kind of this moment where I was like, this is really surrealist. And I don't know why, but I'm kind of digging this moment. Yeah. And then the car explosion, I was like, okay, you've got me. And that was the most got the movie had me in the entire time. And so like, I was like waiting, can we get back to the horses that tried to kill him?
Right. Yes. It's kind of, if you get back to that point where that's the catch, and then you're going to draw them. It's it's a typical do the action, and then we get all the story development, but it doesn't get really fleshed out very well. I also have to say, none of the female characters in there are very much fleshed out as well. I said overall, all the characters not really developed, especially the female characters. For literally one is in the background in the beginning of the movie. She's just background.
Well, that's why I'm shocked that Tilda Swinton, you mentioned, 7 Academy Award nominations and Swinton's was the win. I don't think she's bad in the film, but I don't know if I saw enough of her in the movie doing anything of substance to award like the best actress or supporting actress role for that performance.
I agree.
Yeah, there's really just 2 major Tilda Swinton scenes that from an acting standpoint in this movie. It's the one where she's talking to the hitman on the side of the road, and she's trying to hint at getting Arthur killed, and they're kind of talking around it. But really that's a strength of the screenplay more than her performance, I think, the way that it kind of dances around the topic and still feels like something that people might actually talk like. And then the scene at the end with George Clooney where he's confronting her at the Hilton.
So for me, it was less those 2 scenes that were memorable for me. It was more the beginning of her character when she was like getting ready and she was practicing her interview, and then later she was practicing her speech. Like, I got a lot out of that rather than her other 2 scenes. And I don't know if that's because like I could see her flaws right there as she's basically fabricating a bunch of words. It just felt like a lot of lies. It felt like she was kind of twisting things in a way, because I didn't know it was for an interview at that point. I didn't really know what was happening at that point. But I just have this distinct appreciation for watching this woman put herself together to go and put herself in this professional setting and try to make herself look extremely hireable or whatever. And so that was more impactful to me than the other 2 scenes that you mentioned.
So Emily, right after this movie ended, asked me, why was this nominated for Best Picture? We've seen a lot of movies in 2007. Why this one? Do you guys have any answer to that other than just politics?
Come on, film buffs, give it to me.
I think it's because of the temperament and the tone and theme. It's a little more uneventful, right? There's a little more dialogue. I have to go back to my movie Network, which I think this person, Tony, probably watched Network before writing this, because you have a lot of dynamics and you're trying to do in a spiderweb the connecting characters and everything. But it just doesn't, for me, I think they get the tone and theme right, but I don't think they get the characters and the emphasis right. There's a whole lot of much to do about nothing, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where you get, okay, he's primarily separated from his kid. That's probably maybe 5 minutes of a scene, but there's a lot of things they hold on to that just you shouldn't hold on to. And like we talked about when I was on the show with Mr. Brooks, there's a lot of things you could cut with this that would enhance the story a little bit better. And I think you need to spend a little more time with Tilda Swinton's character, Karen, because she goes dark very quickly, where you have to give what is the motivation to go dark that quickly, that fast.
Right.
See, and I think Michael Clayton it's easy mode. I mean, it's making sugar cookies instead of something really elaborate. Like, it's the film itself is such an easy Best Picture choice because it hits all the boxes. It's totally a political move to give this thing a Best Picture nomination, because the Academy members, we see when the Academy votes for it, Best Picture is the only thing that the Academy nominates and votes for. Whereas in every other area, like in the acting branch, the actors nominate the people and then the entire Academy votes for the winner. This is one where like it's the amalgam. So you're always going to get 1 or 2 picks that are like the easy choices, which is why we saw like when Green Book won a couple years back. It's the most palatable option.
Yes.
This is a situation where this film was not offensive to a whole lot of people. There's a few things that have aged on it, but like not offensive at the time for viewership. And it's got like that Criterion level where it's like you've got Sidney Pollock in the cast and you've got George Clooney, who we adore George Clooney. Tom Wilkinson is one of those actors who he's a strong character actor and he elevates everything he's in. I think even if you didn't see this movie, you could say, oh yeah, I'll put that on Best Picture. That's probably good, Yep.
And I like the way you said that too about the way that the nominating process works, because the largest branch of nominators in the Academy is actors. And you can see that the actors loved this movie because you see 3 actors up for an acting Oscar.
piggyback on Kyle, it has all the ingredients. It checks off all the boxes that Oscars look for. There's a reason why this got released in October. It's Oscar bait.
Yeah, the placement in October is really clever as well. And again, I remember I went to my local theater, didn't have a lot of movies, so I would drive an hour and do like day trips to the bigger city to watch like 3 movies. And I did in October when this movie was out. And like I said, I saw it on the poster and I just went right past it. I watched American Gangster, I watched We Own the Night, and I watched Saw 4. Like those were my movies I saw instead of Michael Clayton. And you know what? I stand by. I picked those 3 over it.
So one thing we haven't talked about yet is George Clooney in this movie and his acting. I feel like he's kind of coasting through this entire movie. I didn't ever feel like he had this shining Oscar moment that was like, oh, wow, that's really powerful acting. And I think Denzel Washington in this role would have crushed this movie. And this movie would have been a lot more compelling seeing him as the fixer.
Right. It's hard to like what he would do differently. And I think he's limited about what he can do in the script. I think he does what best he can do with his limited what he has to do in this story. And there's really no time he can be like Tom Wilkinson. He can go off. He has to be what I call the barometer character, right? When he's nervous, we all have to be nervous. When he's scared, he'll have to be scared and everything. But there's no really a sequence where you go, wow, he's really nailing it, because everybody has to, he's the title, so everybody has to come to him eventually. He does this a lot of it throughout the whole movie where he just constantly looking down.
Mm-hmm. He's looking down on other people. He's George Clooney, all right?
But it's this constant looking down, and then they always film it where it's all at that medium close-up shot where they try to compact all the dialogue and stuff like that. So there's really no area where you can expand the performance where George, but you know, it's George Clooney. Everybody just wants a pretty face with a suit on.
I mean, I will say that even though I wasn't really impressed by him, he just kind of felt like some white guy actor in a suit to me. The last scene, and I know I'm kind of jumping the gun, but the last scene where we're seeing the credits and he's in the taxi, that long close-up on him for I don't know how long, it just impressed me. It's not Oscar worthy at all, but it impressed me that he was able to just like stay in character. And maybe he didn't do anything. He was just himself, but I don't know. I was just like, as a person who breaks all the time for everything, I was like, that was
Emily, awesome. I agree with you. That was pretty good how he can hold that for that long a time.
And it was also just interesting too to me. You know, it's like, why are we holding this for so long? I just was like, this is kind of interesting.
Well, and with George Clooney, I've got this thing about George Clooney. I don't think he's bad in most things. In fact, I think most of the cast here that was nominated, I think they were fine. I don't think they were exemplary, but I don't think they were bad. George Clooney for me has always been one who I've preferred unhinged, because it's getting rarer in his career, but I prefer when he does stuff like Return of the Killer Tomatoes, when he does stuff like From Dusk Till Dawn. Say what you will about Hail Caesar, but he is on in every scene of that movie. You can criticize that movie for being absolute ridiculousness, but he is on, and he's more magnetic when he is unhinged. I like his cameo on Spy Kids, because like he's having fun. And I think that's what we need from George Clooney. It's like whenever he does these serious roles, I just kind of go like, he's playing himself. Like I compared this movie to Money Monster, where I was like, they're probably the same movie. I remember very little of that one too.
It's interesting you say that, because I watched a short interview before this of George Clooney talking about how he had a neck and back injury while he was filming this. And I was like, well, shit. Okay. And so he's like, yeah, I would just show up and be grumpy and sad and upset, and they just wouldn't throw makeup on me, and I just acted sad and upset. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oscar nom.
Apparently that's all you need. I can just show up after a day of teaching. Oscar nomination.
My next audition, I got to do that. I'm just going to lay on a wooden plank for 4 hours.
When Tilda comes out of that hotel ballroom and the camera turns around and Danny Ocean is standing there, that's what I saw when they turned the camera. It was like, oh, like this is the gotcha moment. Like it felt very just, I don't know, easy for George Clooney to just slip into the same character he's always played. And even when he was trying to be angry with Tilda Swinton, I never got the rage coming from within him. It was more just like, this is clearly a performance. And maybe that was intentional, because he is performing for Tilda to try to get her to do this. Like, he's not saying the things he actually believes. So maybe it's an intentional acting choice, but I don't think it is.
See, I agree with that too. Like, it felt very underwhelming to me. Like, she tried to have him killed. Like, his car blew up when he was around the horses. Like, it just felt to me like something where I would have more rage. I would go Tom Wilkinson in that moment and start taking off my clothes and yelling. Like,
right.
I couldn't understand when he has like a Danny Ocean moment where he's like explaining how he like swapped the pesticides or something. Like,
see, and that's the scene I think Denzel would have done really well in, because that Denzel rage, like you see in Training Day, where he becomes completely unhinged at the end. Like, that's the level of anger and rage I wanted to see out of that character in that moment, but it was just very subdued, and I couldn't really get behind it.
Underwhelming is kind of the overall theme to this movie, kind of.
Yeah.
And Nick, you said that you put it in your top 10 back in 2007, probably?
Probably did, yes.
So can you take us back to 2007 and just tell us what you remember you liked?
I did like the look of it. I did like the tone and theme. There's not one bright sunny day in this movie. There's not one good thing about it. It's a little more, I would say, melancholy throughout, without really talking about depression. It is anxiety filled. So there's a lot of feelings, like intensity of like anxiety. There's never a sense of a calm in this movie. So I think that got right with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the colorizations, we're gonna talk about Michael Clayton. I think, the blues and the blacks and the overcast and the dreariness of this. That's what I remember from it. I think that encapsulated well to me when I was probably in my 30s. Then overall, looking at what the script is offering, that I'm not really impressed with anymore.
See, I like Robert Elswith's cinematography, because he went on to do Dan Gilroy movies like Nightcrawler, Velvet Buzzsaw, and this film kind of has it's almost like a business suit Nightcrawler feel to it, where it's just kind of this like dread, this kind of, I don't know, I felt icky watching the movie, and maybe it's because, again, I don't find many of the characters likable or interesting, which is like the two criteria. You got to fit one for me, and I didn't find many people likable. And so I kind of got that like ickiness as I watched the movie, where it's like, I'm not sure how I want this to end, but please have some of the bad people pay something. So I kind of like the visual appeal of the film. I'm surprised it didn't get a nomination for that, because I thought that was the strongest element.
I really liked some of the cinematography too. I felt that sometimes it was disjointed, where it had like a specific focus. Like the beginning monologue, just how it's shot and cut, like you have a lot of the dark undertones, and you have just like, I think people just cleaning the building, and it just was really interesting to me. I'm like, I have literally no idea where this is going. Or there would be little snippets of the cinematography where I'd go, that's a really interesting choice to linger on that. I specifically remember when George Clooney is driving his son after they saw Timmy, his brother or something, and we're getting a shot from behind them in their seats, and you see George Clooney's eyes in the rear view window or rear view mirror.
Right. Yes.
For like longer than necessary shot. And I'm going, oh, that's a very interesting choice. But it never seemed to go anywhere with like the story. It didn't mesh well with what was happening.
Right. And I think that's probably the seduction of the cinematography, probably what put me probably labeling it as a top 10. It's honest. It's true. Yeah.
So let's do a little bit of revisionist history then. Kyle, Nick, you guys get votes for Best Picture. Who do you replace Michael Clayton with? The other four that were nominated were There Will Be Blood, No Country for Old Men, Atonement, and Juno. What do you put in instead of
to that?
Michael Clayton? Yeah.
Zodiac.
Okay.
Oh,
that's fair. I just watched Zodiac last year, so I probably would pick that one too. My number one film for 2007, I believe, was Grindhouse.
Okay. Yep.
And I don't know if that would fit with the Academy, but I adore the movie. And I think there's no other movie like Grindhouse. And I'm one of those guys who I award ambition over almost anything else. Because if your movie is ambitious and it really swings for the fences, it earns some love. Mm-hmm. So I would, if I had votes, and I had a lot of them because I'd have to win a lot of people over, I'd put Grindhouse in there. But Zodiac as well is one of those movies that was not loved when it came out. And kind of like how Michael Clayton has lost a bit of love, I think Zodiac has gained a lot of it. So I wouldn't pine on Nick for that choice.
We're in our last 5 movies of 2007, so we're kind of wrapping this up. Zodiac is one we're doing in a couple weeks.
I've never seen it. I'm very excited. because everyone keeps telling me how good it is. So
I watched Zodiac twice in 1 week because we recorded an episode on it. And then I was like, my wife would love this. So like 2 days later, I was like, you have to sit down and we have to watch this movie again. So
Nice.
I'm assuming that then the script is probably way better because I know Nick loves his writing and writers. And I'm assuming that either some characters are likable or interesting. So
all the characters are really likable. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is fabulous in the Zodiac. And then you got Mark Ruffalo doing Mark Ruffalo eating and all the time.
It's the antithesis because there's a lot of interest in that film. And I, again, fault a lot of these characters in Michael Clayton for really not pulling me in. There was a lot of times in this movie when I was kind of hoping I was watching it with ads on Hulu so that I could get up and grab some food or something. Like, I don't know.
Oh, that's so funny because Emily literally watched this movie in 2-minute spurts as she was cooking dinner.
Oh my God. Okay, so yes. So last night I get home and I'm like desperately want some mashed potatoes. And so like I'm making Salisbury steak and mashed potatoes, everything from scratch with like a mushroom gravy. And like I sit down for 2 minutes while something's cooking and then I pause it and I go do something. I come back. And I honestly was like, maybe that's why I didn't like it so much. But I kind of reflected on it. And now hearing some of your opinions, I'm going, okay, so like I'm valued in my opinions, not just because I watched it stupidly.
Never forget the movie I recommended at the beginning of this episode was House. I watched it on TV with commercials. So commercials do not ruin a movie experience, and neither does getting up every 2 minutes. I've had movies I've adored. Zodiac is a long movie. I had to pause it partway through, go make some breakfast. It did not ruin the experience. So I think you're validated in that choice. I don't think 2-minute spurts, except for Quibi, I guess. I don't think 2-minute spurts have ever failed. So,
well, let's dive into the good, bad, and weird of this movie. What were some things that you did enjoy about this movie that we maybe haven't touched upon yet? Scenes, lines, shots.
I think I talked about every single thing that I liked about this movie already. But I will say Arthur saying he's Shiva, the god of death. That was a fucking funny line.
That is great. Yeah.
That was a great line. And the way
if
he
you're
delivered
going to do a callback
too.
line, that's a good one.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I would just say it's I put in my notes, the cinematography is what won me over. It's the best thing about this movie.
And actually, the scene that I want to call out is the one that cinematographically, is that the word? That the way you say that, right? Yeah. Is probably the standout one, and that's the scene where Arthur's killed because it's all one unbroken shot.
Shit, that's right.
And it really shows like how quickly and efficiently this killing can be done. Like it adds a level of scariness by not cutting that shot, just to show you how swift in movement they are.
Yeah. No, that was a very good take in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
I forgot.
That was one of the things I called out. Was I thought that shot was done very well because it actually caught me so off guard that I thought they had just like knocked him out for like half the shot. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. They knocked him out. His eyes are like, I'm like watching them drag him around. I'm like, what do they do to him? And then I'm at the end of the shot when I'm like literally realizing, oh. And I was like, my favorite character is gone now. There's still like 40 minutes left. But no, I mentioned the cinematography. I mentioned, again, I think that surrealist shot with the horses, I think using that framing device at the beginning, because what's great about that framing device and then coming back to it is that we see that the other car in that sequence where he like goes over the little hill and his vehicle lifts off the ground quickly, we actually see that the other car in that shot had significance. Like there was all these little pieces that we didn't put together first time watching it. And again, that's why I think that monologue, had it had more substance, would have worked better near the end of the film when you could see it through that lens. So I'm sad to say my favorite part of the movie was the framing device and being able to watch it twice, because I thought that was a really powerful way to like make me not think things mattered when they actually did.
Yes.
How about bad? Is there anything in this movie that was just out and out bad?
Nick, let's talk about that writing.
Okay, I don't think any of the female characters are really developed at all. I think they're just vessels in the movie, and you really have to sit down. I know it's under, it's from a male perspective and a lot of male, but even Tilda's character is not even fleshed out very well. They're either standing by the sink or they're just behind the guy talking. No real female characters are really written really well.
Well, let's see. There was Karen, who was Tilda Swinton, and then we had Anna, the girl that Arthur was in love with and was part of the suit.
Who has one emotion, right?
Right. Was there for like a second. And then her sister, who was on the phone a couple times.
Who has one emotion, yeah.
And then there was some of, I think, Michael Clayton's sisters that, again, like, I don't know why they were in the movie. They were just there. But otherwise, oh, hey, you know what? There was also Michael Clayton's secretary who complained about a merger.
And I think you need to go back and really flesh out female characters in this movie a little bit better.
That's why it shocks me that Jennifer Ellie was cut out as his girlfriend. Like, there was scenes shot with his girlfriend, and we have an actress, Jennifer Ellie, who's pretty solid. She was in, I think, Zero Dark 30 a couple years later as well, and she had some sizable, acting to do as she was facing off against some big names in that scene too. And I thought, like, why would we cut that? Because she could have been our access point to Michael as a human, like as an actual person when he's off the clock. And so we lost that one female performance. I don't know how much was there. I know one scene of it made it on the DVD, but I don't know how much actually was written and filmed. But why that loss?
Mm-hmm.
It's because they wanted to make Michael Clayton seem so off-putting or just like separate from the rest of society, I think. Like, even his relationship with his son is not even close to developed or fully realized, as he's talking, as Henry, his son, is talking about like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Michael Clayton is just sitting there like, yup, sure, okay, whatever. And that whole piece about the restaurant failing and his brother being on drugs and he goes to this birthday party, it just seemed like he was putting on an act, like he was actually a spy, just like hanging out, pretending to be a family.
I think what it comes down to is a movie's either plot driven or character driven. And this movie tries to somehow be both at the same time.
Yes.
And it half-asses both because of that. Like, I think there is a good movie in here where it's 80% plot and 20% character. And I think there's a good movie, which is the one that Kyle wants to see, which is 80% character, 20% plot.
Yep, this movie's missing that Ron Swanson quote. Don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one
That's
thing.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And if Karen's gonna be the bad guy, I really want to see some real good bad guy, and we just don't get it.
I know, you love your villains.
I want to see a really go over the top dynamic, even more like Diane from Network. She's a villain, but she's so enticing to watch and so interesting. And even though Tilda Swinton won Best Supporting Actress for this, it's not captivating. I want something really dark. Why she went straight to, all right, we're just killing.
Yeah. Like, someone had to make that choice.
Well, and Emily, as you pointed that out, that her best scene is the one where she feels like a human, like where she's connective tissue to us as the audience. And yeah, when I saw that scene at the beginning, I saw myself in every public speaking event I've ever had to do. I have led a lot of group interactions in rooms, and every single time before I do, I'm like, okay, whose birthday is it today? Who can I talk about? Like, what's going on? Like, I've had that moment, but that's her best scene. And we have Karen, who's a literal Karen, having her best scene where she's a human being. And then everything else, I felt like she was just so soulless that I couldn't connect with her reasoning behind some of the dark choices she makes.
Yeah.
Any weird stuff that took you out of the movie or stuff that you're just like, why? Why is this here?
Kyle, you love the horses. I fucking hate the horses.
Oh, I love those horses, man.
Like, seriously. Okay, so I similarly was like really captivated by the beginning of the movie. And then just that scene where he's like standing by the horses and then you can kind of see the explosion next to him when the horses scatter and everything. But I'm like, why the fuck did you get out of your car? Like, what is happening? Why are we looking at horses? And then when he goes through the whole movie and we do it again, I'm like, again, why the fuck are we with horses right now? I don't get it.
Apparently they added some horse imagery into the film throughout to try and like make his reasoning. I get that. He doesn't have a lot of reasoning for doing it. And I think that's why I'm interested in that scene is I'm like, why did he get out to look at the horses? Like, and I wanted to know more. But again, since I don't know his family life or him as a human being because of script choices, I'm not going to diss the horse scene for that. I'm going to diss the screenplay choices for that. Because if we had known maybe like if we had dived back into something in his past that would made him stop and look, a painting he saw at some point, something just to give me a reason for him to get out. But there's something mysterious about that scene that he's just finished this moment. He's getting out of the car. He's looking and it's almost like the horses are like his saving grace, because if he hadn't stopped the car and gotten out, movie over a lot quicker. So
yes,
I don't know. I just think I think when you have something that's surrealist and mysterious in the film that stands out, we can't fault it for being probably the most interesting scene in the movie.
Thus weird.
That's okay.
For me, the weirdest part of this movie is what the hell is Michael Keefe doing in this movie?
Oh my God.
All he does is just stand and just like say his lines. And then there's one, especially in the bar, he's on the phone. He's like, I'm taking this call. And then you watch him out scene. It's like, you don't need to be in this movie at all. You're just almost like he just showed up for the audition and they couldn't say no to him. Like, okay, we'll put the movie.
Fun fact, George Clooney and Michael Keefe both dated Laurie Metcalf's character on Roseanne. So maybe there was some sort of connective tissue there.
It's like an Eskimo Brothers thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Emily, you went after Kyle. I'm going to go after you because my weird thing is that unedited lingering shot on George Clooney over the credits, because it left too much unsaid to the point where I didn't understand what he was feeling in that moment. So I'm looking at his face trying to figure out, like, okay, how are you interpreting what just happened? Like, what's going through your mind? And he stonewalled us with his face instead of giving us something to let us know how he was feeling.
Like him breaking down because he lost Arthur or anything.
Sure, or a smirk or something. Anything. Give me something. A twitch. I'll take anything.
Can I make a connective tissue on that too with this movie,
oh my God,
Captain
Kyle,
Phillips?
What is with your connective tissue, man?
I love connective tissue. So Captain Phillips is a movie, Tom Hanks plays the captain. He gets taken over by pirates. And like this whole movie, I'm not huge on the entire movie up until the final scene.
Agreed.
There's a scene where Tom Hanks has been rescued. He's taken in and like the police or the people are checking him over, making sure he's okay. And he just completely breaks down. He's blubbering. He can't remember like what's going on, who he is. That's the scene that I kind of wanted Michael Clayton's final moment over the credits to be, because that scene is what I think earns Tom Hanks the nomination for Captain Phillips. And it might have actually earned George Clooney, in my mind, the nomination for Best Actor. But yeah, he kind of, I thought it was an admirable idea, but I don't think it worked the way it was intended.
Yeah. Unless the point of that scene is to really enhance the score and get that nominated. Because the one thing that stood out in that unedited shot was the score for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't enough to warrant it playing over the credits. I don't know. It didn't add enough. Let's put a bow on this thing. And Nick, why don't you give us your thoughts on the movie? Wrap it up for us.
Second time review, there's a lot of different flaws that I didn't recognize the first time viewing. So I give it kind of out of 10. I kind of give like a 6.5.
Okay. Kyle, how about you?
So I think Michael Clayton is one of those movies that makes you realize that maybe we don't always need 10 Oscar nominees every year for Best Picture. Like this was before they did 10, but like it's most deserving of like, maybe we need less. I'm going to give it a 4.
Oh, wow. Emily?
It was fine. There were some good moments. There were some interesting moments that made me think. I'm really glad I didn't watch this sitting down without cooking. I'm going to give it probably a 5.5 out of 10.
I think I liked it the most out of all of us then. I really appreciated the dialogue. When I think of an original screenplay, dialogue is one thing that always seems to pop out at me the most. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, but it's not something I'm going to continue to go back to. There are other versions of this movie that are out there that are better than this.
Yeah, definitely.
Emily, you got some Twits Light for us?
Oh, hell yeah. So here's some Twits Light. You didn't come prepared for anything. You don't have to get points or anything, but I have a few questions that I'm going to ask, and they can be silly or serious or whatever's the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay.
First question. When you first saw the beginning, why do you think Michael Clayton got out of his car to see the horses?
It's October. It's hunting season. He confused them with deer.
Man, my first reaction is a serious answer. It's something that was in Realms and Conquest. Like, that would have been a nice way to tie the horses actually into the movie. But I think it's actually because his youngest brother was killed by a horse.
What?
Yeah.
That was in the movie?
Little Tommy. No, I'm making stuff up, Emily.
Oh,
that would have been a better movie.
I pivoted.
You made me believe it.
I have to say, the first time when I saw this, and I think he was trying to retrace the steps of why he hit the hit and run. So he thought that maybe the horses were one of the horses that he hit instead of a person. That's why he got out of the vehicle. So that's when I first watched it, like, oh, maybe he didn't hurt a person, maybe he hit a horse, and those horses are like standing like, there's one laying there, and then we get the whole revelation.
Right, and the horses are like, that bitch, son of a bitch, hit our mother or something.
Right, yeah. Yep.
Vengeance time.
Okay, here's your next question, number 2. So Arthur is back in the city. He is expecting Anna to join him. He's talking to George Clooney, and he has 20 loaves of bread. What is he doing with these 20 loaves of bread?
I thought he was just going to pass them out to homeless people.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Really nice.
Yeah, I was
Ben's
getting
not
Christmas
going
Carol vibes.
Really?
I thought maybe he was changing his ways because, like, it was maybe just like the idea that he was going to go against his own people and become a good person. I got like anti-Scrooge vibes where he was like, go get us a turkey.
Yeah, that's the same thing I had. I thought he was like, I'm not a corporate lawyer anymore. I'm not evil. Here, I'm going to do good things.
Okay, Ben, bring us home with something really awful.
Yeah, so I think it's more of a bread fetish. I think like when he was having Anna over at the house, like he was just going to like spank her with the bread until they broke. And then, he's got another loaf ready so that they can go for hours. It's like a Midwestern thing. And Anna was such a Midwestern girl that she needed that bread love.
Okay. That sounds like a VHS or VH1 show, like Anna and Arthur True Loaf or something like that.
See, all I could think was like bread loaves as swords, and that's all I could think is that he's gonna go back and hang out with Anna and just pretend they're swords.
See, you were cooking while you were watching. He was cooking while he was acting. So,
okay, here's my last question, number 3. Where does Michael Clayton go at the end of the movie in his taxi?
I think he goes back to his brother.
Oh.
But his brother's there. Well, where does he go?
I think he goes straight to LaGuardia and hops a plane to Vegas.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. He's got 10 more people to pick up.
That's right.
He's definitely not going back to his kid.
Oh, God, no.
No. The kid is into some bad stuff, like realms and conquests. Please.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Nick. That cuts deep. I love it. Thanks for playing Twits Light.
All right, now let's jump into a game that's going to pit Kyle against Nick.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
So, the title of this game is, get it? Because it's his name. His name's Michael Clayton. So, all of the answers are going to be movies that have a person's name as the title. So, Nick, I'm really glad you brought that up earlier because all of these movies are name-only titles. I'm going to give you first the year, then the lead actor, then a very brief plot summary. And if you can guess the movie after the year, you get 3 points. If you guess it after the actor, you get 2 points. And if you guess it after the plot summary, you get 1. And Emily's going to demonstrate with the first one for an example. So,
yes.
Emily, it's a 2005 comedy starring John Hader.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Correct. So, Emily would have gotten 2 points.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so no time needed on the clock. They're just going to battle against each other. Emily, please keep track of points as we go. So the first one is a 2000 drama. Oh, sorry, one more thing before we jump in.
Okay.
You only get 1 guess per movie.
All right.
Yep. So there's no
that
throwing.
Changes everything.
Yep, I'm glad I caught that.
No pulling up that release calendar, Nick.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so the first one, a 2000 drama starring Jamie Bell. Kyle. Yeah.
Billy Elliot.
Good.
Nice.
Oh, they're battling each other. It's not
they're
just
going
one
against
person
each other. It's whoever raises their hand first is how we'll do it. Yep.
Got it. I didn't understand that.
Good.
Okay.
Good call, Kyle.
Okay. 2008 action starring Emile Hirsch.
I know this one.
Speed Racer.
It is Speed Racer.
I got it, Speed Racer before.
No, I'm quitting. See you guys later. Speed Racer is the greatest film of all time.
Yes.
Have me back on when you talk it.
we actually did it as a practice episode before we even started our run of 2007. So
bring it back.
That was when Ben and Matt were like, "Oh my gosh, Emily, do you want to be a part of the show for reals?" After I did that practice one with them. It was awesome.
I saw Speed Racer in the theater more than any other film in my entire life. I saw it 5 times in the theater. I drugged my now wife to it, and she still married me.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That's like Kyle picking Maltese Falcon over me, man.
I wasn't thinking of his name. I wasn't thinking of his name as being Speed Racer. Whatever. Next one. We'll do this.
2-2. 2007 comedy starring Amanda Bynes. It's a retelling of a princess story set at a college.
Oh, what is it?
I know this.
4, 3, 2,
No.
1.
No.
Emily's got
Sydney
it.
White.
It is Sydney White.
It's a fucking terrible movie.
Never saw it. I remember that one, but I never saw it.
I never saw it either.
Don't.
2001 sci-fi starring Jake Gyllenhaal. A scary bunny teaches about time travel.
Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko. Yep. Good job, Kyle.
I'm doing better than I thought I would.
2007 comedy starring Vince Vaughn. These two brothers are nothing alike.
Wedding Crashers? No.
It's not Wedding Crashers.
It's a name of someone.
4, 3, 2.
I'm going to hate myself for not getting this.
That one is Fred Claus.
Oh my gosh, that's deep.
The classic.
Yep.
Okay. 2006 drama starring Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, Kyle.
Marie Antoinette.
It is Marie Antoinette. Good job.
Nice. Wow.
Never saw it.
Okay. 1998 comedy starring Ian Michael Smith. This is a tough one.
I don't even know who that is.
Dwarf believes in higher power, and for some reason, Jim Carrey is there.
What? And it's the name of someone?
It is, yeah.
Oh my god.
Cable Guy?
It's not Cable Guy. 3, 2, 1. Simon Birch.
Oh, dang it.
Would you guys have known that?
I recognize the name, but when you said Jim Carrey was there, that threw me way off.
Okay.
I have no remembrance of Jim Carrey being in that movie. So I was like thinking, like, was there a shorter person in the Truman Show? Like, where am I?
Okay, 2007 comedy starring Anton Yelchin. Psychiatry is so easy, even a teen could do it.
What is?
I have the first name.
Does he get half a point if he gets a first
I'll give
name?
him half a point for the first name, sure.
It's Charlie something.
It is Charlie something.
Does Nick get the other half point if he can get the other?
He does.
Come on, Nick, you got this.
No.
3,
I can't get it.
2.
Charlie Wilson's War.
It's Charlie Bartlett.
Oh!
Bartlett. I kept thinking Charlie Bucket. I was like,
No, that's from Willy Wonka.
yeah.
So you get half.
Been great with
Give him a
You
half.
got half. Yep. Okay, 2001 comedy starring Lance Cruther. It's a blaxploitation film directed by Louis C.K. Kyle?
Is it Pootie Tang?
It is Pootie Tang.
Wow.
Great poll. Great poll.
Wow.
I didn't think this game was going to be this hard. This is interesting. Okay.
My mind keeps going to Lincoln every time you say stuff. I'm like, it's Lincoln. It's Lincoln.
2001 comedy starring Chris Kattan. Yeah, Kyle.
Corky Romano.
It is Corky Romano.
Corky Romano.
Wow.
Elementary school graduation present. Seeing that movie.
What a gift. The gift that
My
keeps on
goodness.
giving in your mind. Last one. 2008 action. Starring Mark Wahlberg. It's a revenge movie based on a video game. Kyle.
Max Payne.
Max Payne.
It is Max Payne.
Oh, wait. Nick got that first.
He got me first, yeah.
Kyle raised his hand.
So what?
It's the teacher in me. It's the teacher in me.
No.
Nick, I'll split it with you.
Split it, okay.
How they do, Emily?
Nick gets it because now Nick's at 3 and Kyle's at 8.5.
Okay.
I was just trying to get to 9 3/4.
Well, Kyle, Nick, thank you so much for being on with us today. We really do appreciate it. Why don't you give your shows a couple plugs before you go?
Go ahead, Kyle.
All right. Well, as you know, Kyle and Nick on Film Stars, Kyle and Nick, and that's airing Mondays and Thursdays and now Saturdays at 7 a.m. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/Kyle Nick on Film for tiers as low as $1. But if you join at $5 and up, you can actually be part of our rotating patron selected episodes. And so check that out. And you can also find Goat Film Reviews with over 1,000 film reviews at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find the St. Paul Filmcast anywhere you find podcasts. We're on Amazon Radio, iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean. If you're interested in purchasing comics of Parapet Comics, you can go to indieplanet.com. Just type in Parapet Comics or my name. And if you want either further updates, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'll give you updates on more issues coming later.
Awesome. And again, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks for having us.
amazing.
We'll see you for Speed Racer.
Yes. So, as we do, I'm going to name 3 things, and we're going to have our guest guess what movie we're doing next week. So, your first clue is that Emily has seen this movie that we're doing next week. That's a big clue, because she does not see a lot of shit.
Shut the fuck up.
Wait, do you mean shit was the second clue then? Or
No, well, kind of. The second clue is a sewer portal. And the third clue is Central Park. What 2007 movie are we doing? We are doing Enchanted next week.
Oh,
yes. Enchanted next week. And we are having our friend Connor on again from No Highway Option. We're really excited to have him back to talk this Disney musical comedy.
Which should have been nominated for Best Picture, in my opinion.
Wow.
Over Michael Clayton, I'd take it.
Well, thank you so much for everyone for listening to us this evening or morning or afternoon or
whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, whenever you're listening. Thank you. Please rate, subscribe, share us with a friend or two. And you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at IDYP_podcast. Or you can email us. We would love to hear some feedback at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com, especially if you're from Swaziland. We really want to know why you're listening to us. Please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But before we go, Kyle, Nick, again, thank you. Nick, as the loser of our game, you are the one that gets to do in your best Daniel Day-Lewis impression. I drink your podcast. I drink it up. Give it to us.
I drink your podcast and I drink it up.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.